Hey, welcome to the Raw 1251 AM. My name is Harry, and I'm joined here today by Pete Needham from the Fullers. How you doing, Pete?
I'm all right. I'm as good as one can be at the moment.
Definitely a bit miserable at the moment. I'm not too bad. We got snow down here, so something to do.
Yeah, that is a perk. That is a perk.
But no, I've mostly been sitting inside and listening to a lot of music. And speaking of which, you guys have just released a new song, a new single, the Crystal Palace. So do you want to tell me how that was? How'd you find the response?
Yeah, I mean, we managed to squeeze it in just before the COVID cases started coming back up. So we were lucky that we managed to get together, do something productive.
Before lockdown 3.
Not that everyone has to be doing something productive right now. It's unwind a bit. But no, it was good to get some company and get that done. But yeah, the response has been really good. Got a play on a Sheffield radio station yesterday, which we didn't ask for, but we got a really good review on there. So that's been good. And hopefully we've got the ball rolling enough to pick up some more fans.
Definitely, yeah. And actually, speaking of the song, it's quite like a sort of story-rich, detailed song. And I was just wondering if you could just tell us where that sort of came from and where you're going with that.
Yeah, it's like a mashup between two Dostoevsky novels, one being The Brothers Karamazov and one being Notes from Underground. So there's a bit about this character called Dmitri, who's basically lost all his money. And he used to be like a really rich guy, like a sensualist, loved women. Like, he's a party goer. And then and in the song, his life's falling apart. And he basically says, like, it's better to be, I don't know, free and not a slave to money than having lots of pressure to, hold on to women and money. So it's basically like a freedom versus security sort of song. And the Crystal Palace symbolizes like a utopian society where everything's perfect, but it's like a criticism of that because, people are flawed. And if you want a society where everyone is perfect, then you're gonna have to do a lot of manipulation because
it's never gonna happen.
And yeah, the people are always going to be messing up, and it's just a criticism of people who want that sort of rigid, computerized society where people are more like drones, robots influenced by everything around them rather than themselves. I think we're quite an anti-digital band. We like our real instruments. Get a few violins and accordions in there.
I was going to say you guys like to chuck in a lot of not many synths, mostly a lot of orchestral tracks.
Yeah, not anymore. Yeah, but unfortunately we can't go all the way by having an analog recording process with the tapes. And we're not that rich.
That's very expensive.
We can't go that direction, unfortunately.
Speaking of recordings, you guys also, it's not just the Crystal Palace, you also just recently finished a EP earlier this year.
Yeah, summer.
Yeah, how was that sort of recording with all the restrictions going on?
I think the restrictions had eased by then. We had to when we started practicing, we were sort of in one of our bandmates' garden, kind of just doing what we could, and then eventually, by the time we recorded, it was all pretty much back to normal. I think it was about when things did, apart from nightclubs, everything was back to normal by the time we recorded, I think. But yeah, we tried to squeeze 4 songs into 2 days, and I think that was the downfall of that EP. If we stretched it out a bit, it would have probably come out a bit better, because towards the end we were just we were squeezing things in a bit.
Actually, speaking of the next EP, are there any sort of big plans? What are you guys thinking of working on doing next?
Yeah, we're not actually sure about. I haven't spoken to the band much about what's coming next. I mean, I think we're prioritizing live shows for the summer. I think the next thing would be like a really big single, something like a single, but
10-minute long single.
I think like the Crystal Palace, but even more drawn out. I mean, not on the standard of Bohemian Rhapsody, but something quite operatic and big. I want to go in that direction because I think that's the only thing that's going to stand out now, because there's so much indie rock out there that's just guitars, and I think you've got to chuck more at it to get it noticed. So
I will say it's been interesting watching you guys, because you did start as that sort of, you know, in generic indie rock, so you've kind of branched out into your own more
that's what
orchestral
everyone
thing.
said. But people like that. People just like the sort of. I don't know if it's just because we were at school and everyone was sort of going, "Oh, school band, that's a good meme. We'll go and we'll go and listen to them." Or if people just preferred the sort of bar chord indie rock groove. I don't know.
Yeah. So what kind of influenced you to go outside of that indie rock sort of thing and, you know, find more orchestral stuff? Are there any specific bands or artists that you really take after? Or?
I think, yeah, there are a few bands that include sort of folky classical influences I like, namely Beirut. Don't know if you've heard of them. Queen do a lot, but I don't listen to much Queen, but I'm starting to think that that's a good direction to go in. But we don't want to be
Bohemian Rhapsody, yeah.
Don't want to rip them off. But they did, yeah. I mean,
I'm sure they won't be too offended.
I think Bohemian Rhapsody was inspired by bands like Yes and weird bands like Gentle Giant. Like there are a lot of 70s experimental bands that tried to sound really medieval.
And more of that sort of prog rock kind of stuff.
Yeah, I think it's more like we feel guilty for, you know, there are enough bangers out there, and we feel guilty for doing something that's not, you know, complex stuff. Like if we're going to record stuff, we might as well like make it different, make it a bit more complex, use a few classical influences, make it a bit folky.
Put something new out there rather than just...
Yeah. I mean, we're not doing something completely new, but because it's been done a lot of times, but because the market's so saturated with, you know, the just very digitized music, then it's probably, I don't know, I think it's a bit of a gap, it's not much of a gap, but
it's definitely something that's lacking. I mean, I love a good bit of violin in a sort of modern
it has been done a lot, but I think right now, especially in Corona, because most of the music being done now is very computerized, because the only people that can do anything are solo artists who have, you know, a Pro Tools at home.
And actually, speaking of, you were saying earlier, talking about live shows, focusing on that for the next year, it's quite unfortunate. You guys were going to play the Rocksteady this January, but unfortunately that's been cancelled with Corona. Are there any other current plans to move that to
that should be delayed. I think they're thinking of moving it till May, but we all know how that goes. 2 weeks to flatten the curve.
Yeah, exactly.
So I don't know, and obviously
1 month lockdown.
Glastonbury being cancelled wasn't a good sign either.
It's a bit unsure, isn't it? Sort of.
I mean, yeah, that was quite a first step for us getting that gig. We wanted to do something small, so and it's mainly only the small gigs that are happening in Corona as well. So we definitely play there, hopefully more than once in the summer if it opens back up, and hopefully look for other venues. But yeah, no, that wasn't great. The fact that was called off.
Yeah, a bit of a shame. And so I've got one last question I do want to ask you, just because I'm quite interested myself. Where does the name The Fullers actually come from? Are you just massive fans of the brewery, the pub chains, or?
Yeah, no, everyone does think it's the brewery. No, we used to explore this abandoned factory in Red Hill because we thought we were really cool back in, when was it? When we were about 15, 16. And yeah, it was called Fuller's Earthworks. So we just thought we'll name it after something that meant something to us.
That's fair. That's what's important, you know.
Yeah, it was quite a nostalgic place. It was a remnant of when Britain was quite an industrial country. So,
actually, speaking of Britain being industrial, you guys, you know, a lot of your songs kind of deal with those sort of topics, you know, industrialist Britain, sort of the older Britain. And I thought it'd be quite fun to have you play our infamous Slang game.
I'm not going to be good at this.
Proves. Let's see how well you know your Industrial Revolution Britain. I've got some different Victorian slang here, and I'm going to give you the slang, and I'm going to need you to give me what you think it actually means.
Oh dear.
All right, you ready? You ready?
Yeah.
All right, let's do it. We'll start off with a bricky.
Bricky. I feel like these are meant to be obvious.
Honestly, I did not guess a single one of these when I first.
This is going to be embarrassing. Is it a bricky? Is it a bricklayer?
Nah, it means brave, unfortunately.
Oh dear.
Yeah, a lot of these are adjectives, not
Okay, adjective.
Yeah.
Adjective.
Or like verbs. Yeah. So all right, the next one. This is one of my favourite. We've got catlap.
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 What?
This one is a noun. This one's a noun.
This one is.
Yeah, catlap.
Is it like a cat flap? But it's
it's a cat flap on your lap. Yeah.
A cat lap. Cat. Is it a technological device? Is it like?
No, it's a derogatory word for tea or coffee.
A derogatory word for? How can that be derogatory?
Because they'd use it to insult tea or coffee. They'd go, "Oh, it's cat lap," you know, because it was weak. It was something a cat would drink.
Oh right.
It wasn't, alcoholic or anything. This next one is probably the one that makes the least sense at all. So just be ready for this. It's a way of describing someone. It's afternoonified.
Afternoonified.
Yeah.
Afternoonified.
Yeah. It makes zero sense.
Afternoonified. He is. I can't even. It doesn't sound very Victorian. It sounds like.
A lot of these are just so bizarre.
Sounds like bad grammar.
Not very prim and proper.
Afternoonified. Someone who has. Someone who's wide awake. I don't know.
That's close, actually. You're close. It means smart.
Oh,
so
right.
you're quite.
I guess you are at your smartest in the afternoon, I guess.
Yeah, you're more awake.
Yeah.
Or if you're me, you're still asleep. And then the next one we got Kruger spoof. So this is a Kruger spoof.
Kruger spoof.
Kruger spoof, yeah.
Krug.
Kruger, like Kruger. Yeah, Kruger spoof.
Spoof. A spoof of
a guy called Kruger.
Yeah, that's what I'm going for. I don't know. Is it entertainment? Is it an entertainment?
No, it means to lie or lying.
Right, that's a very long word for.
Yeah, they got some. I mean, this one is my personal favourite. We've got Skillimalink. Skillimalink. I just love the way it sounds. Rolls off the tongue.
Is it an adjective?
Which one's an adjective? Yes, it is an adjective. Sorry, I'm dreadful at English.
Sounds like a delinquent or something.
Someone shady.
Oh.
Yeah. There you go. That's one point.
Sounds like it. You know what I mean?
It does. It just sounds very dodgy, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
But yeah, you've. I think. If I'll check where you are on the leaderboard, but I think you might be slightly further down at the bottom. We don't really write it down, but
oh dear.
You gave it your best.
I did.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming on with me today. For those of you guys listening, check out the Crystal Palace. It should be on Spotify, Apple Music, and all respectable music platforms. Thanks for tuning in.
Thanks very much.
Across campus, online, and on 12:51 AM. This is your student radio station.